It started as a harmless, even helpful hobby, hiking along a beloved river, picking up trash. From time to time, I'd carry a small shopping bag, scooping up obvious debris, laying it to rest in its proper place in trash receptacles. There was so much of it, and I have to admit, I felt pleasure and pride in my discoveries. So much so that I began carrying and filling 2 bags daily with humanity's refuse. Washed up shoes, t-shirts, plastic and glass bottles, beer cans. Good, clean fun it was. A snapshot of America. So, it's hard to say just how and when things started going awry. But around the time I had collected some 200 pieces of trash, I noticed that my helpful mindset and behavior had morphed into an immoderate habit, bordering on the worrisome addiction it has now become. This is my story, and a word to the wise, it could happen to you. In retrospect, the road to addiction is obvious, but in the moment, it is sneaky. At first, my trash retrieval behaviors were amateurish enough. I simply grabbed the obvious pieces. But over time, I developed an uncanny eye for debris, despite the fact that my eyeglasses were often fogged by the pandemic-appropriate mask I wore. Meanwhile, my feelings upon finding trash were changing. The mild euphoria I once felt, snatching small snippets of styrofoam, was not enough. I wanted the dopamine hit that came with high-performance finds. Over time, even finding such top-shelf trash failed to deliver that punch. Call it trash tolerance. Alarmingly, when I saw other hikers picking up trash, I no longer applauded their effort. I resented them, proudly holding up their bags. Competitors! Of course, they didn't know me. I'd always found more. That's because my focus had become so keen that I could almost intuit the presence of trash, no matter how well hidden. Also, I was willing to work ever harder to score a hit. I pushed through thickets, crawled through brambles, stoically waited for heavy rain days, then rushed riverside through mud to await and grab some garbage that just might float by. Any sense of personal dignity or self-care was history. Other signs of my increasingly unhealthy attraction to trash were, in hindsight, abundant. My unseemly outrage if I couldn't extricate a piece of trash, my irrational and relentless hoarding of it, the trembling and shaking, hot and cold flashes, then nighttime tossing and turning I suffered on days I failed to retrieve trash, how I neglected my human relationships in service to my grinding need and cravings to trash gather daily. And, finally, my abject lying and later guilt about repeated, unexplained and urgent outings to the river. These clear signs of addiction called for some sort of intervention, with concerned loved ones gathering on my behalf. But did that happen? No. Insult to injury, that no one intervened, and people didn't believe me when I shared my anxious feelings about trash, added to my distress. Alone and unsupported, I sought help online. Sadly, searching for the term trash addiction was fruitless.
I don't have an answer for that.
Yet, I did discover that my compulsion is a behavioral addiction.
Behavioral addiction is a form of addiction that involves a compulsion to engage in a rewarding non-substance-related behavior, sometimes called a natural reward.
An ugly cousin, but still a cousin of the flashy gambling, shopping, work, video game, internet, and exercise addictions. Recommended treatments? Cognitive behavioral therapy, talk therapy, and group therapy, to name a few. Meanwhile, I begin here by simply admitting my addiction to myself and telling others, you, about it. And I've begun practicing moderation and impulse control strategies. For example, I allow myself to search for trash while hiking out on a trail, but never back. I practice lifestyle coping skills. For example, just letting go. Sitting by the river and either closing my eyes or, with an unfocused gaze, contemplating its rhythms. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Thoughts of trash will be inevitable. Notice them, but then let them go. Just be in the present moment. And finally, I now take pride in generously leaving some trash, especially the big, flashy pieces, for others to find. I remind myself to stop being so greedy about getting every last piece. And I'd counsel others to follow my example. Grab only the trash you need for your mental health. Everything in moderation. Leave the rest, a resource to pass on to your kids and grandkids, before it all disappears.